Okay, we're off. Hello, everybody. Welcome to this panel session. We've got half an hour. My name is Jonny Kaldor. I'll be hosting you for the next half hour. I'll just quickly tell you a little bit about how it's going to work. Then I'll introduce our panelists, and we'll get on with it. So I'm going to start and give a little bit of context around the topic that we're discussing, which is death to PDF. Should PDF die, or is it an amazing format that we should continue to use as publishers? And we're going to follow a kind of a debate type format. So I'll just spend a couple of minutes talking about what we mean by PDF replicas and other sorts of magazine formats on digital, and then I'm going to hand over to our panel, and each of our panel members are going to spend 5 minutes, not a second longer, with their argument, whether they are for the death of PDF or against, and they want to keep PDF. And then we'll have about 10 minutes for questions, some of which I will pose, but hopefully some from the audience as well. And then you get to vote, and you can decide the future of PDF. So, first of all, I'm going to introduce the panel. I'm going to start with Brett. Brett Lewis here from IPC. He's the Group Creative Director at IPC Media. He's art directed over 14 titles, and he now works on editorial brand development for the 60-plus IPC brands, including Country Life, Horse and Hound, NME, and Nuts. And now Brett spends about half of his time in print, half of his time in digital. So, Brett Lewis. Our second panel member is Graham Duffill. He's formerly of the Times and Sunday Times, and he now runs the digital publishing company, which helps publishers, membership organizations, and businesses turn their publications digital. So, Graham. And last but not least, we have Tom Beckenham at the end, who is the CEO and founder of Speckle, which he founded in 2011. And Speckle delivers about half of the UK press ads, and now they are heavily into tablet and digital editions. So there you go. So hopefully a panel with a good mix of ideas. A little bit about me. My name's Jonny Kaldor. I'm co-founder of Kaldor, which is the creator of a publishing platform called PugPig. We publish apps for Bauer and for Hearst and for News Corp and a few other publishers. So again, as I say, between us, I think we've got a certain amount of experience in this field. So I'm just going to kick it off with a bit of context. What are we talking about here? I'll just show you a few examples, and I apologize for those of you who know all of this backwards. But if we're talking about, I guess, the first basic PDF sort of product, then you're thinking of stuff like this. Yachting World, this is a PDF replica. It's effectively a byproduct of a print workflow. So this is actually the PDF that's being sent to print, is taken and it's reformed and it's turned into a digital product. So it looks exactly the same as the print product. And if I want to read it, I can, well, at some point that'll kind of render nicely and I can read that. And of course on mobile phone, you just simply squeeze it. So there you go, that's a PDF replica. Next step beyond that is kind of enhanced PDF, where you take that sort of experience, but you can add video and audio and links, and also kind of live responsive text so that it is readable in a mobile phone. Then we have this sort of thing, National Geographic. So this is an Adobe DPS product. So this is designed specifically for digital. So this is not a print product. This is designed for digital. It's extremely beautiful. You design this for every device in every orientation, so it's quite editorially kind of heavy from a work standpoint, but it is a beautiful product. And these get rendered into an app container which is very specifically around downloading editions and reading cover to cover. So it's still a kind of traditional publishing model, but designed for this device. Then we have, and this is hot off the press, I think this was launched today, same sort of thing, designed specifically for digital, but in this case, this is responsive HTML. So the pages you see here are HTML pages bundled up into a native app. And the difference between this and the last one you saw is that the same page will be rendered on all devices. And rather than just kind of shrinking it, you're simply reflowing the text and reflowing the elements on a page, so you get this kind of reading experience which is appropriate for the device. And then, next step is to go even beyond the kind of standard edition-based publishing format. So if we look at Evo, so this launched a few months ago now. This is a monthly magazine in print, but what they've done here is they've created a totally different publishing mechanism. So every couple of days, Evo are pushing out new articles, and they're delivering it in this sort of timeline type view. And then if you want, you can go and read the December edition, or you can read the BMW edition. So they're taking editorial content, they're curating it, but they're delivering it in a way which is very different to a print product. And then finally, one more very quickly, something like Grazia, who are again, they're taking a kind of traditional product, but rather than just simply reading editorial content, they're allowing you to buy off the page. So I go into a page here with products in it, I tap on a product, I get to see it, I can look at all the products on the page, I can share them, I can buy them, I can wish list them. So there we go, my God, that was fast. But hopefully that gives you an idea of the spectrum of products and approaches that we're going to be talking about today. So, with that in mind, we shall go to the motion. Right, so the motion is PDFs should die a graceful death and let us get on with making real content apps. Obviously not very, not very unequivocal. We are now going to spend about 5 minutes each with each of our panelists coming up and putting forward their argument either for PDF or against PDF. We're going to start with Brett, and I think you're against the motion. You are for PDF. He's for PDF. So please welcome Brett Lewis.
Thank you, Jonny. Actually, my favourite was Evo. I thought that was one of my favourites. Okay. Interestingly, I'm a content creator, which sounds a bit pompous, but I work in a media company and we create product. I also manage that product, I also manage the workflows, and I also manage those brands. So page flippers versus clever apps, is it all over for PDF? I'd just like to share some thoughts to you on that, and how we're kind of stuck. We're kind of stuck in our way in PDF, and how we move out of that, and it's very difficult for us to move forward. So Apple on Newsstand, I guess this is something that we see every day. This is yesterday's. This is iPad top 60. And you can actually see the clever apps 38 out of 60. Well, you kind of think, well, clever apps are doing quite well here. I mean, they're moving towards the top. I think last year there was about half that many. Amongst the top, there's 10. There's only one that's not a clever app, and that's sitting there 9, and it's always sitting roughly close to Grazia. So Nuts and Grazia are always sitting close together for some strange reason. And as you go lower down that chart, it kind of begins to sort of fade out a bit about the number of clever apps, and the following 60 is really interesting for me, and this is kind of where I think most of the market, or the bulk of the market, sits. So I'd just like to look at Cycling Weekly at the top there next to Wired. So Cycling Weekly is a little PDF, it gets thrown out every week, it's a little page flipper, and it's actually today doing better business than Wired. You know, Wired famously were the first DPS people that kind of go into the market. We all kind of bought Wired or iPad apps and looked at it. We looked at the different platforms it's on. I know there's 4 or 5 people that are just employed working on that app. Number of people that work on Cycling Weekly page flipper, not one. I mean, that's our problem. You know, we don't have the resources. We're not Condé Nast, and we're not going to employ 4 or 5 people per brand, as you can actually see. Interestingly, further down, I think we've got Evo, which is one of my favourites, with Jonny's is second row down here. And today it's being outsold by Volksworld, which is actually one of my titles, but it's all about Beatles. So flat PDF page flipper is actually doing better than that fantastic Evo app. And these are the economics that I have to work in. I can't justify that fantastic Evo app on Volksworld, especially when Volksworld is actually doing better than Evo. It was yesterday anyway. It might change today, who knows? Okay, and just to go a bit deeper on that, it's not just iPad, it's iPhone. You would have thought iPhone, page flippers, nobody wants a page flipper on iPhone, surely. But if you look at the clever apps in the top 60, there's only 13 clever apps on an iPhone. I actually thought this was kind of where clever apps would really come into themselves on iPad, on iPhone and iPhone 5. But actually the market is saying not at the moment. There's not many people actually getting in there with apps like that. And actually Nuts was number 1. It's been number 1 since it launched a year ago. And it's kind of, I mean, no one's going to read that product, which I can understand, and that's why it's sitting there. But however, nothing else has actually come close to that. So that's the economics of it. I mean, how do I go to a publisher and say I want another 4 designers and another budget for all the video and everything else we're going to put in the clever app, when the sales actually kind of look like this at the moment? And another thing about Apple, I mean, do we like the Apple experience? I mean, trying to find newsstand apps. This is my my laptop, and actually I'm trying to find newsstand. It's a category within a category. It's way down that list. If I'm trying to find anything, are we really sure Apple are behind us? If we're going to put a lot of work into this. And actually, when I look at my iPad, this is the little icon I get. I mean, my 5-year-old probably could have done a bit better than that. I mean, it's not the most invigorating experiences on an iPad, and I guess we all feel that. Okay. Let's remember it's not just about Apple for us. Finally, I've had publishers chasing me for about 3 years saying, what about Android, what about Android? Well, it's finally arrived for us anyway. Last year, our digital sales are now about a third to iOS. So it's finally here for us, but it's not just a platform. It's Zinio. We've been with Zinio for about 12 years, 13 years. It's Google Play. It's the kiosk. It's Pocket Mags, Magtizer, Kobo, Kindle, and Nook. I mean, there's another three others as well that I haven't actually seen yet. So how do I serve up my super app to all these people? Because actually just dealing with them on a PDF basis is hard enough, let alone talking about HTML and device agnostics. And I get the device agnostic argument, but when I'm dealing with the guys at Google Play just over my banners for my newsstand, I mean, they're in a different language, a different culture. We're just not connecting, and that's just one platform. What about the other 19? Anyway, there's just too much work there. 1 minute. Okay, the workflow. This is something that Jonny was discussing earlier. This is how do I get out on time? This is Monday night. That's 3 renditions of Nuts. Excellent. Okay, we've actually finished before 9 o'clock, and actually the workflow isn't just about not just about more bums on seats. It's actually about the time it takes. And our workflow at the moment is looking pretty sad just on that basis. More resource, the more you put in, more you get out. This is my famous interactive resource versus cost versus reader feedback spreadsheet. It's the thing of beauty. This is just to emphasize that every time you're going to put some video in a product, there's a cost to it. Every time you put more galleries into a product, there's a cost to it. And actually, thinking about that iTunes store, it's not reflecting back yet on any level, but how we can perform on that. If you want to copy that later, feel free. Reader feedback, I'll just finish on this one, and then we're done. This is, I speak to lots of readers every week. This is something I call a born-again cyclist. Somebody used to cycle when he was a child and then took it up later. This is what he told us this week. I love my iPad edition. The pictures look better than they do in print, and I agree. I love the 360s of the video and the bikes. But unfortunately, no, I wouldn't expect to pay any more. It's digital. For the last 15 years, we've taught people to accept digital is free. And actually what we're trying to do now is put a price on it, and that's not an easy thing to do. But the quote that really got me was that I buy this magazine for the fitness information. He buys it for the read, for the narrative, for the content, not for the 360s, not for the product, not for the way it's delivered to him, or the extra galleries. He's buying it for the content, and that's what you still get with the PDF, and that's why I'm still voting for PDF. Thank you.
Okay, thanks Brett. That was a very long 5 minutes, but I'll allow it. Right, so next up is Graham. I'm just going to plug him in. Hold on one sec. Graham, over to you.
Cool, right, I'm going to give you some opinions and then I'm going to give you some facts, which will hopefully answer this. When I was the online editor of the Sunday Times, the most common email I got from readers was this. And what I determined from that is readers want context. And I spent most of my journalistic career sitting in front of the raw source of news, the wires. And I can tell you that news over the wires means nothing until you give it to a reporter who gets reaction, historical context, quotes from people who are like the reader. Only then does it become relevant. That story goes to the art desk, who get pictures and graphics that talk to the story and the reader. Then it goes to the subs who put on the headlines. So is the reader actually saying they want PDFs, or are they saying they want context? There's 3 problems that come with apps at the moment. One is, as we saw with the Evo magazine, you can break down publications into stories, and you can start to get involved in something I don't understand called content curation and aggregation. The problem from an editor's point of view is when you break things down, when do you start to lose your readers' engagement? Second problem is in this wonderful app world is your story doesn't go to the art department, it goes to the kids in the toy shop. it becomes a Christmas tree for all the gestures and multimedia and interactions and things that they can hang on that story. Hang if anybody's ever going to read it, they can certainly tap it and play with it. And the third problem is, do you ever feel shortchanged when you get a digital edition? I mean, I've gone over very happily to reading the Times every day on the iPad, and if you gave me the paper, I'd put it down and I'd stick with the iPad. If I get the Sunday Times, I've tried as hard as I can to read it on the iPad. I get it for free. I'm never sure where I am. I'm not sure when I've gone from the important stories on page 1 to the rubbish stories on page 2. I can't follow all the sections. I'll happily go and spend £2.50 in the new shop to go and get something that I know is the real product. Those are the challenges. I now work for the digital publishing company, and I'm going to illustrate this with some facts based on a sector of the clients we work with, which is the membership and professional publications. Guys like these, the Institute of Chemistry and Physics and so on. These people do not have a choice how they package their content. They're not like consumer publishers, who I think have too much sway in this argument, who can choose their market. Consumer publisher could go, I'm going to produce it only in iPad and only in landscape orientation. These guys have got members and they service their members, and the members have got devices in their pockets, and as a member I expect to get my content and whatever I've got in my pocket at the time. And as we see, over 2 years they've generally swayed a lot in usage, these are real stats usage, towards Android tablets and phones, and they need to seriously think about those. So I'm going to show you very quickly what we do to 2 of these membership organisations, and then we'll see what that produces in terms of reader feedback. Pharmaceutical Journal goes out every week to all pharmacists in the UK, and it contains information they really need to get. Times Educational Supplement goes out every week to teachers worldwide, and presumably has information they really need to get as well. So this is the PJ app with all the publications in it, like the library. Let's choose a colourful one, and if we turn it portrait, it defaults to the PDF. They're offering their readers a PDF by default. That's their choice. Yes, they can pinch and zoom and stuff like that, but if they double tap, they can go into the HTML, responsive HTML version of the article. This then lets them do more if they want. They can share the articles, they can comment on them, as this person has. Once in this view, they can read through it, but if they want the context, they double tap and they come back up to the page view. And interestingly, in this publication, the most read article in text was this one. It's about inspections of pharmacists, it's long, it's got panels in it, so this was the most clicked to for text because it's a damn sight easy to read in its long format. So that's how PJ works. If we go out of PJ and go into TES, the Times Educational Supplement defaults from the cover straight into the HTML view. From there you go into the news stories and go through it like this. There are no helpful flags in PJ, like in PJ, saying you can go back to the page view. Experienced readers will double tap and know they can go back up to the pages, go down here, and if they want, go back down into the story view. So that's how those 2 apps work and deliver. Go back to our and deliver the content to the readers. What do the readers tell us they want? Well, PJ readers, firstly, they are mostly coming from mobile. Just over half of them are on mobile phones. Remember, this publication defaults to the PDF, and we see that 80% plus of the page views are on the PDF. This is really disappointing to me. Only 18% are going through to the HTML, but they're on phones, so how the hell are they reading it? They can't be pinching and zooming every article. Somehow it seems they are. One thing I did notice is that people who do go through to the text view, to the HTML view, are a lot more active. The events and actions on those stories, clicking links and so on, is a lot more than people on the pages. If we look at the TES stats by comparison, first thing to note, 61% are on tablets. That really astonished me until I met with TES yesterday and discovered that Apple and education authorities are throwing iPads at schools. So lots of teachers are getting cheap iPads. So hence the figures. So those guys should be happy in PDF view. 62% of them are reading the HTML version they're given, but quite a high number, 37%, are choosing to go from that and generating page views in the PDF. So for some reason they like the PDF. It is a beautiful magazine. We try and do as good a job in the HTML, but the only thing that I noticed on the side is TES has a 25% longer dwell time. So people are either more engaged with that content or they like, I think if they're in HTML, they're more likely to be reading, let's put it that way. So my conclusions. Readers do like PDFs. We can't argue with that. But I think that's because readers like context. What I do know, to come down on one side or the other instead of sitting on the fence, is that HTML is going to fit the way the devices are going. We can all see how many Androids and phones there are out there, and HTML is going to do a better job of that than the PDF. I'm going to say that HTML does offer more depth and engagement, and I think the challenge for us as publishers, editors and content distributors is simply to reinvent the PDF into an HTML format that carries the context and carries the reader's trust. Thank you.
Perfect, thanks Graham. Okay, so to close us, we're going to have Tom from Speckle, who will be, I hope, fighting for the motion. I'm not biased at all, right? But hey, here's Tom.
All right, I'm Tom from Speckle. I'm going to talk about this from the advertising side. As Jonny mentioned before, Speckle's a unique position that we do a load of print advertising. We deliver a load of UK's print advertising in many magazines, many newspapers, and we deal with around 500 different creative agencies every month, delivering everything from classifieds to full page display, all sorts of things. So you think that we're very much for, static design, PDF, keep your print ads. But what we really see is that as time goes on, the world really needs to move from static design into responsive design, because those devices have just exploded, and we have much more than just the iPad to deal with. And we've been really going, almost hell for leather the last year, developing interactive ads, working with advertisers, understanding where there's value, and understanding what people will pay for. So I just want to talk about one thing around the market and the market for advertisers as well. Brett touched upon the top 60 apps, and then the apps below the top 60. And was it 38 out of the top 60 were clever apps, and after that it was 18 out of the 60? Well, what really many people don't understand is we talk about percentages of readers, we talk about percentages of people, but when you look at the real numbers of how many people are reading these apps, it's very, very small. Beyond that top 60, that market is hardly even a market. Really, this is what people forget is that this is quite an emerging thing. Tablets may have been around for 3 or 4 years, but still publishing has not really moved with it. And they're still very much stuck in trying to figure out what this is even going to look like. What is the content going to look like? What are people going to engage with on these different devices? And from an advertiser's perspective, there's a load of confusion, and the engine, as I say, is really broken. The additions aren't getting us the numbers. It's hard to get ads into them. It costs a lot of money usually to get ads into them, and if you're trying to do anything clever, it costs even more money. And then every publisher is selling ads in a different way. So from my perspective, what I'm looking at is where is the money going to go, and what are advertisers going to pay for? I mean, you look at an iPad or an iPhone or an Android device, you look at all the choices that a consumer has to occupy their time. They've got apps, they've got games, they've got utilities, they've got the mobile web, they've got Newsstand. And Newsstand right now is stuck within one icon on someone's device, and within that is your publication. And so your publication has to be pretty good, really good, to attract that user's attention. And from my mind, the only way forward is in actually dedicating resource to really understanding how are you going to get that consumer or that reader to re-engage with your brand, or for new readers to engage with that brand? And from an advertising perspective, where money is going to go into is into the apps which are really going that way. It might be hard, it might be more costly, and from our perspective, with all these 500 agencies that we deal with, there's a handful that really know how to create really interesting, responsive HTML5 advertising. So our challenge as a company is try to help all those people to move into that world so this engine can start happening again. So from my mind, I really see that death to PDF, full stop. I feel that we need to move forward and that publishers need to engage the audience and target audiences both on tablet and on mobile. And I think, Brad, you actually talked about the mobile apps and how, like, out of the top 60 there was only a handful that were clever apps. That's pretty much because there's only a handful of apps, full stop. You know, there's very few apps that you're actually targeting mobile and trying to embrace that medium. So what I would say is that full steam ahead. Let's create responsive design and help advertisers move into that world, because that's where I feel the money is going to be.
Okay, thank you, Tom. So, right, my God, we're running out of time, which is just unbelievable. I can't believe we're kind of 25 minutes in already. I think we're going to try and be cheeky and stick around a bit longer. Oh shit, she heard me. Okay, we'll try and stick around a bit longer. So, just a quick summary then. We've got Brett saying PDF is a great product. It's cheap, and it's actually selling pretty well on the newsstand. We've got Graham saying, well, why not give people both actually, if you can, because they like the context, but they like the responsive design for their phones. And we've got Tom saying, look, let's just kill it, right? Let's invest properly and let's give advertisers a platform that they can really, truly engage with their readers on. So look, we've got a few minutes. I've got one or possibly two questions I'd like to ask the panel, and then hopefully we've got a couple of questions from the audience as well. So my first question is, when print is no longer a viable product, where does that leave PDF? So we'll start with Brett. Can we turn on the mics?
Hello. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks, Johnny. That's not an easy one. But you know, people still like print. I mean, it's a bit of a shock in a digital environment. Print still does something for us. So I think that day is quite a long way off before print is not profitable for us to be in this game. I can't put a date on that, like no one can, but I think that'll be around for a while. Yeah.
Okay, no, yeah, okay, so print's going to be around for a while, so that day is far enough away not to worry about, I think is what we're hearing. Graham, what do you think?
Well, if what we start doing now is encouraging the editorial people to update stories in real time in the apps and to add to stories in the real time. And I think it's part of the editorial process of understanding that you don't have to publish just when your print magazine goes out. So they'll start to detach the HTML and make it more interactive and updated than the original print. So eventually that button will take you back to the original content that came out way back when, but the editorial team will have made something much better, the reader will be on board with it, and soon everyone will begin to forget about the original print version.
Okay, and Tom?
So I couldn't hear the question.
Okay, so the question is, should there be a day when there is no longer a print product, how is a PDF equivalent going to exist?
Well, something PDF as a format, when I say death to PDF, I really mean death to static design. I feel that PDF is actually quite a useful format. It's resolution independent, you can embed fonts and graphics. It's something which can be used as part of a fully interactive product. Where does that leave, people who design static design? Well, I think it'll still exist, and I still think that print will exist. I just feel that, we have devices. People are using these devices. Shouldn't we actually, start to engage with those people who are using these devices? And I feel that print sits here, and those publishers with those brands can use those brands to create new products for devices.
Okay, all right. I think it's time to take a question from the floor. So if you have a question, please raise your hand. We'll try and get a mic to you. Oh, yes, we have one right here, right at the front. No, I'll do it. Yeah, if you could just say your name, where you're from, and your question.
Fiona from FPE Media. It's for Brett. It sounded it was more of a resource problem that you didn't want to change. So if you didn't have any constraints, would you change over?
Question. I mean, I work with publishers. We run a business. I have to explain to them why I want to resource a product X. I need staff Y. I need another budget for it. Yeah, it's a resource issue. I mean, if the market's not big enough yet, the market hasn't grown to the level that we need to, that we can invest back into the business. It's not there. Yeah. Yes, I would. Yeah, of course I would. Why would you? Yeah.
For those who didn't hear, Brett said if he had unlimited funds, yes, you would develop more beautiful apps. I love you. Okay, we're being told to wrap up, but I think if we can squeeze out one more question, please. Oh yes, again from the front, the gentleman there. We're going to have to be very quick.
To focus on the business case, is the smart app in the top sellers because it is a smart app, or does it become a smart app because it is in the top sellers?
I believe it's not. I believe it's there because the content is good. That's why PDF is still top 50, 40 because the content's still in there. That's what I believe.
I'm not sure you can hear at the back, but Brett's saying because the content's good, it's up there. I think it's also the case actually that the publishers are investing in their best products, and therefore their best products are getting that extra, that extra attention, and that clearly they're going to be top sellers. Look, we'd love to go on and on chatting about this stuff, but I'm seriously getting horrible looks at the back. So before you go, please don't leave, right? I just want you guys to have your say. So if we go back to the motion, where is it? Here we are. Okay, so the motion is PDFs should die a graceful death and let us get on with making real content apps. If you are for the motion, please raise your hand now. Oh, okay. And if you're against the motion, wow, God, that's so depressing. It looks like the against have it. Thank you very much indeed.